Hey everybody. Sorry, I'm a bit late to the posting game. I just finished up actually reading a comic for the ethnobiography, and my hands and mine were a little fried, so, but I'm getting it done now. I'm going to talk to you about stuff that I really am interested in. So I guess we can start with this. I'll post this on as well, take a photo, but this is the piece I did for, I guess. This is, my art piece. And it started initially, I listened to all of Ron's videos, and I was really moved, I was really touched, I had a really emotional reaction, I was crying and being like, yeah, man, and then feeling really affected by what he was saying, very reflective on all of that, and then I went back and I listened to it again while I was doing the artwork, and I think I became a little more critical the second time around, hearing what he was saying. Specifically, I think that there's a lot of contextual influences and environmental factors and certain things where you, are bound by the system, where this, they call it like the trench of poverty or something, where X permits you from doing Y, which permits you from doing B, which permits you from liberating yourself or whatever, curing yourself. But I think that generally what he was speaking was really powerful. And it was really uplifting. It's always really helpful and hopeful to hear about different just people in the world that are making serious changes and seriously challenging the medical system and the medical model, with how we perceive mental health care. I, per usual, I'm pretty reflective when I hear people who have overcome certain deficits or certain illnesses or certain diseases, if that's what you want to call them. When I was working with children that did have diagnoses, and how that diagnoses became a part of them and how there was extreme resistance. And I think if someone or a group of someone's and a group of people had just said, I accept you and how you feel is okay and it's not your fault and we're here to work with you on this, as opposed to being pretty explicit between what is right and what is wrong. And I think because he does get pretty heated, and I had all of these kind of scribbles, which has been this reoccurring thing for me with a lot of what we're reading, is I just get overwhelmed and incredibly moved, and really excited in this like spastic kind of energy that I feel I feel so overwhelmed, like I'm trying to get out of this forest so I can then navigate through it better. So just this kind of like manic scribbling thing. So that's enough about that. I wasn't particularly into it, but it works. And in regards to what he was talking about, the art of being with another, I loved the whole idea of walking the journey with somebody. I feel like that speaks so truthfully about specifically narrative therapy and looking at storytelling and the power of containing a safe space, to have that space. It's not stagnant, it's not contained, it's not bound by the context of where you are, but it's mobile. And it is, I think Danielle uses this word in her presentation, and I'm not too sure, but I think this is what it means. Oh gosh, I want to say it's relativity, but I know that's not it. Of course I jotted it down. But also kind of the same thing, a lot of what Christine was talking about, and a lot of these now, as we get a little more in like the current contextual psychological fields, is like there is this, you have to be adaptable and you have to have the ability to hold something larger than just the individual. You have to be able to hold the space so that you can allow thought and awareness, not only of the self, but of the self in context, and how important and critical that is to be so on top of it and so aware at the same time. Just seems really necessary, and it really held true and rang true. And you know, we've kind of moved past this like sit down and tell me your problems to let's look at this on a more socioeconomic, sociopolitical, socio-spiritual kind of idea. And yeah, I think the privilege, when he spoke a lot about the privilege, it's not just a job, it's not just something that you do, but this is a privilege that you get to share with somebody. And as we progress and become increasingly more and more isolated, we are going into a field where you are allowed, you're given the gift to really be with somebody. And that's heavy, you know, that's really been weighing on me. I'm just like, wow, what a gift. We're learning such a gift right now. And that kind of looks, again, at the midwife of the soul. I recently saw my sister give birth, so I kind of really had a very graphic reaction to that. And I think that it's pretty accurate. It seems, I don't know if I'm ready to feel that way. It's really terrifying to think that I could be responsible for just being with somebody for that whole time. I guess this is why we're in school, right? But I love that idea of you're not doing anything. You're just there. You're present and you're supportive, just over the moon supportive. And I guess broken down that way, it's not so scary. And yeah, kind of going back to, you know, that journey of recovery that I've seen. Physical disease, you know, like cancer, recovery is a long road and it's not forever. There are relapses, and you're no longer in remission. You're now fully diseased, and I realize that you're never cured. You know, every day is hard, and thinking of this idea of a journey, you know, you get out to some vista, to some viewpoint, and you see, oh, that looks beautiful, let's go there. But it takes work to get there, and it's not easy. And it gets messy, and it gets challenging, and oftentimes you're your own worst enemy. But if you have a supportive group of people and, you know, enough of your basic needs met, you can go anywhere. And that includes, you know, like curing schizophrenia, which is mind-boggling to me, or kicking an addiction, or surviving cancer. And so that, on that note, you guys know I'm really into comics, and I, right now, am compiling, you know, I have all of these books specific to liberation psychology. This is really kind of the social activism, the pedagogy of the oppressed, then Afwape's book, and I have a couple more in the woodworks. Just looking really at liberation psychology, what that means, what that looks like. I am fascinated by it. I want to know everything about it. And what that means for me with comic books. So Joe Sacco, this guy, amazing, but he was a journalist, and so he went into certain parts of the world, you know, and was documenting war time and activities and looking at the narrative behind all of these insane things, and the ability to tell stories and to liberate someone, you know. It's incredible. It's incredible. And being able to look through a very critical lens where you are in complete control of the situation and share information and share a narrative can be very liberating. You know, I just went through this with my ethnobiography. It was part of my friendship was fucking miserable and really hard, but the process, as it progressed and as I got more and more frustrated and struggled with it more and more, it became so liberating and so empowering. And, you know, I felt the magic of the medicine. Tomboy is another really, really good one. Looking at gender in a nutshell of what is gender, and the struggle that goes through. Gaylord Phoenix, really wild. Just got this one. But looking at transitioning from a man to a woman and what that would look like and how that feels. And so through these narratives and through this work of having malleability and adaptability, and being able to see yourself outside and be the master of your own story, I think is the most important thing. And the ability that you have to share that with somebody is so strong. And that's how you uphold culture and language and morals and folklore and family traditions, and it doesn't have to be bound by language, which I think is really powerful. And I think there's this proverb that Danielle put in her PowerPoint that I really liked. But it's, until lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And that really kind of rattled my cage a little bit, looking at, you know, we hear about psychology from the perspective of the doctors, and it's time that we hear mental health and psychology and issues of the soul from those who have found theirs. Sorry I've gone over and I'm late. All right, I showed up. Thank you all.